Hey everybody, it's Tony George from DocSports.com. Tony's time here. Big guest today and an exciting week as we come to you midweek here, first week of May, as we have live sports going on and some betting action going on with UFC 249 from Jacksonville, Florida. Features a blockbuster card. The main event will be interim lightweight title fight between Tony Ferguson and Justin Gaethje. And, of course, no better person to bring on than the former Chief Operating Officer of CG Technology, a regular on VICENTE, out here on the radio as well nationally, and currently Chief Operating Officer of U.S. Integrity right out here in Las Vegas, Matt Holt. Matt, how does the day find you? How are you hanging in there, buddy?
Well, we're blue skies, great weather, and I couldn't be more excited. Not just the fact that we have a huge UFC pay-per-view this weekend, maybe one of the best cards in the history of the UFC, but it's that build-up that we haven't had live sports in so long. There's so many great betting opportunities on this card. I'm really excited.
Yeah, and there's different ways to bet this. We're going to talk about it and get your insights. And at the end of this video, we're also going to get Matt's insights into college football. If you haven't familiarized yourself with what Matt does, go down on this YouTube page and look at the happy hour interview we did with Matt. We'll fully explain what Matt does for a living and how his career has evolved from an odds maker to a high-end corporate officer in the gaming world to what he's doing now, brand management and game integrity for the likes of the NBA and numerous college football conferences. And college conferences, just not football. And we're going to ask Matt a little bit about the state of college football at the end of this interview. But Matt, this card here features Ferguson and Gaethje, but it also features a huge undercard. What jumps off the page at you on the undercard in this fight?
Well, that's where most of my wagering took place, was on the undercard of this fight. And my favorite bet on this card, and one that I have hit several times already, is the under 2.5 rounds on Anthony Showtime Pettis and Donald Cowboy Cerrone. Two very famous names, Anthony Pettis, former UFC lightweight champion, Cowboy Cerrone, one of the most famous fighters in the history of the UFC, coming off that knockout loss to Conor McGregor in his last fight. But what really stood out to me is this is a rematch of a 2013 fight between these two. But what really stood out to me here is it's almost as if these two guys are in their prime at 2.5 rounds. Look, Donald Cowboy Cerrone is one of the greatest warriors in the history of the UFC, probably going to be a UFC Hall of Famer. But as we know in combat sports, the first thing to go on some of these guys is their chin. Donald Cowboy Cerrone is now 37 years old, and he has been knocked out in the first round in 3 straight fights. I'm nervous that if the referee, when they're checking for the mouthpiece, checks too hard, Cowboy Cerrone might get knocked out before he gets in the cage. He just doesn't have any durability anymore. And on the other side of this fight, Anthony Pettis, who's also kind of on the downside of his career, 4 of his last 5 losses have come by the way of finish. So these are two guys that tend to get finished at this point in their career. They don't tend to have a lot of durability, and they both still have a lot of power. Anthony Showtime Pettis coming from that famous Duke Rufus gym up there in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. Cowboy Cerrone coming from that famous gym in New Mexico. Both of these guys can bang. Both of them still have big power late in their career, but the durability is a huge issue. I got it at under 2.5 plus 0.5 and even, but hey, the sharp guys are starting to catch on that this one's not likely to make it more than a round or two. And now it's 2.5, maybe under -20. So you got to still lay a little juice, but the value's certainly still on the under here in this one.
Yeah,
another
these two
fought back fight that stood. Oh, go ahead.
Oh,
sorry.
well, I'm just going to say these two fought back in 2013, and Pettis won with a first round KO. So this fight didn't go very long back 7 years ago when they fought. And so good call there by Matt Holt. Matt, I'm hearing a lot out there on the underdog here on DeCastro. There's been a lot of talk about DeCastro over Hardy as an underdog. A lot of people are picking that underdog winner, pretty sizable underdog I'm looking here at the current lines at plus 160. Your thoughts on that fight, real quick?
I am 100% on the other side of that. I love the favorite, and I don't like a lot of favorites in UFC because unlike boxing, where a flash knockdown gives you time to recover, you get that 10 count, you could still get back in the fight and win. In MMA, you get that flash knockdown. A lot of times you get finished. Here's the deal here. Greg Hardy has superior athleticism compared to Yorgan de Castro. Greg Hardy just went the full distance with a top 5 heavyweight in his last fight. Part of the reason people are betting against Greg Hardy is they don't like Greg Hardy, and that's understandable. I don't really like Greg Hardy either. He has a really bad history. He treats women terribly. But at the end of the day, Greg Hardy has athleticism advantages in this fight. He has youth. He has power advantages in this fight. And he trains at one of the best gyms there is. He's up in this. Yorgan de Castro got a very lucky knockout win in his last fight against a super aggressive. He barely makes 265. And you're going to see the difference between a professional athlete, 260, and a non-necessarily look at professional athletes, 265, and Yorgan de Castro when they get in the cages. Greg Hardy's going to be ripped. De Castro's a little bit pudgy. Hardy's going to be faster. He already proved he can go the distance with a top 5 heavyweight. De Castro's never fought anybody. I actually love Greg Hardy in this fight. The odds are creeping somewhere between minus 180 and minus 200. I know a lot of people like betting de Castro here because they don't like Greg Hardy. But at the end of the day, he has 2 losses in the UFC. One of them come against one of the 5 best heavyweights in the world. The other one, he got disqualified in a fight he was going to win. Greg Hardy's getting better all the time. He's training his ass off up there. He's taking this sport seriously, and I think the value is actually on the favorite here.
There you go, folks. That is Matt Holt, CEO of US Integrity, is joining us here on Tony's Time at Doc Sports. This weekend, we will have, looks like about Friday, we'll be putting out our cards over at Doc's. Of course, we'll give you a free $60 to jump on board with us here. You can utilize that to get the card for free this weekend. And we're going to have a 4 to 5 play betting card. And I'm going to have Matt help me out a little bit with that card with off the air here. But nonetheless, Matt Holt is one of the foremost experts in UFC and definitely a passionate guy. As I've been to a couple of venues here in town with the wives and watched a few UFC fights with Matt. And the man is into it. Let's put it that way. Matt, I guess we can talk about all these fights that are going on here, but the main event, Ferguson taking on Gaethje. I'm curious to know right now that has jumped up from Ferguson opening up around minus 170, currently sitting at minus 190 with the underdog catching plus 160. What do you expect from this lightweight title fight?
You know, when they first announced this fight as the replacement for Khabib Nurmagomedov for the April 16th card, I couldn't wait to bet Tony Ferguson because and even Justin Gaethje admitted it, that if he didn't get Tony Ferguson in the first round of that fight, he was going to gas and he was going to get choked out. So essentially in a 5-round fight, each of them winning by KO or submission each round, and then each of them winning by decision, you had 22 potential outcomes. And Justin Gaethje was like, I have one way to win out of 22, and that's to knock out Tony Ferguson in the first round. But this basically almost month layoff has given Justin Gaethje something that is very, very important to an MMA fighter, and that's time to do a proper weight cut. The fact that these guys cut 20, 25 pounds of weight in a week, and he was going to have to do it on really short notice, was going to be a huge detriment. It's not the preparedness on how to deal with Tony Ferguson. It's the fact that now Justin Gaethje got to do a month-long cut instead of an 8-day weight cut. And that's where I think his biggest advantage is going to come in. Now he's going to be carry that power in the 3rd or 4th round because it won't be such a dramatic weight cut as before. It was going to be go out there, get it done early, or get beat up. With that being said, Tony Ferguson still has a lot of advantages in this fight, but you have to wonder at 36 years old, with as much as he gets hit, look, Tony Ferguson has some of the most impressive, significant strike numbers per minute in the entire MMA, but he also has some of the bigger significant strike absorbed numbers in MMA. He takes a lot of shots early. And now a guy with this much power, Justin Gaethje, 3 straight wins, 3 straight first-round knockouts, and he got to do a better weight cut this time. I felt really confident about betting Tony Ferguson versus Justin Gaethje April 16th. Not so much on May 9th.
There you go, folks. And to tune in for all the winners, get over to DocSports.com and get yourself hooked up this Saturday. He is Matt Holt, president of U.S. Integrity. And before we get to the state of college football, I would be remiss in my duties as a good friend of Matt's if I didn't give a shout out to my little buddy Ace on his birthday, Matt's son, 9 years old, one of the best fishermen I've ever seen in my life. And so you could tune in little Ace to the show today on YouTube later on and let him know that Uncle Tony says hi and happy birthday. And I hope it's a great day for Ace. I'm sure you'll get out and do maybe a little fishing here in the near future and treat the young man to a fun day for his birthday, Matt.
Well, I really appreciate it, and I'll make sure he tunes in, and he'll be happy to hear that Uncle Tony's wishing him the best. And I think we're going to do a little night fishing tomorrow night, actually.
Oh, there you go. Well, he loved this kid, the most patient young man I've ever seen in my life, put it that way. And a good-looking little fella. Thank goodness he takes after his mother. But nonetheless,
thank goodness for that.
Yeah, nonetheless, Matt, I guess everybody's starting to get a little bit excited with all the events that have surrounded the COVID-19 that has devastated the economy and a lot of people's lives, and everybody's looking for some sort of normalcy. You're starting to see some good news filter out of Major League Baseball talking around July 1st. NHL having players report back to their cities they play in. NBA, I don't know that much about yet. You got NASCAR firing up at Darlington on the 17th, which I'm looking forward to. And, of course, golf, PGA starting out. All of these, of course, are fanless events, just like UFC. But nonetheless, we're starting to see some of these major sports brands trickle in. The NFL is strong on a 16-game season. They release your schedule this week, a 17-week season, and they're thinking move ahead with precautions, this, that, and the other. The big question mark out there that a lot of people have, and you're seeing conflicting reports, and I know you talk to a lot of athletic directors and university presidents for your profession. What have you heard from college football that you could share with the people? And I realize anything that we say is purely speculation because nobody knows what's going to happen 30 to 60 days from now. But what have you heard?
So I'll say this. Of all the sports you named, MLB, NBA, NFL, NASCAR, golf, the one that's going to have the hardest time coming back is college football and college sports in general. And even though you'd say, why? You know, that's such a long time away, end of August, early September, there are so many more challenges for collegiate administrators than there are for the professional teams and leagues. In the professional teams and leagues, you're worried about the safety of spectators, the safety and the well-being of the players and the people involved. The problem is these student athletes not only have to, these administrators not only have to worry about these student athletes from a safety and wellness in participating in sports part of it, these are student athletes. So at the end of the day, if you don't open up the schools fully and you're not allowing these student athletes to be able to go to class safely, how can they participate in sports? So it's not just a matter of how do we make sure they can participate, play football safely, how do we get them back in the classroom simultaneous safely? And that's going to be the bigger hurdle. The bigger hurdle is going to be if these schools don't open fully, if the kids aren't in class, they're not going to be on the football field. That's the tricky part of it. And I can tell you that every athletic director, every administrator, every university president that I've spoken to in the last month says, look, their whole focus and hope is getting students back onto these campuses and back into the classroom safely and in the best way possible. But if you can't get them back in the classroom, how do you get them on the football field? Unfortunately, we all love college football. It's my favorite. But before we can get these kids back on the football field, I'll be able to safely get them in the classrooms.
There you go, folks. A sharp reality in the world that we live in right now. And from a guy that does a lot of talking and with that university presidents and athletic directors, Matt Holt, we appreciate your time today, Matt. I know you're a busy guy. UFC 249 this Saturday. Get over to Doc's website. We'll have our picks up by Friday. And of course, on Saturday morning, I will do a video free pick. And that video free pick is going to be for Matt Holt. I'm going to ask Matt what his best pick is, or one of his picks for the fight, one of his wagers for the fight, and I'll give it to you on Saturday from Matt. And of course, my card will be out on Friday. Matt, thanks for tuning in. Best of luck to you. I hope you start getting busier at work with some of this good news that's kind of filtering out. And in the meantime, hope you and your family and stay safe. And of course, once again, happy birthday to little Ace here on Wednesday the 6th. So thanks for your time, Matt.
Thanks, Tony. Best of luck this week, everybody. Stay safe, stay healthy.
That's it for me. Tony's time right here at Doc Sports.